This is the all-new 2013 Lexus ES sedan. This has been completely redesigned for this year. Instead of being based on a Toyota Camry, as last year's was, this new model is actually based on a Toyota Avalon. That means this sedan is a full 1 inch longer on the outside than the Camry, and while that may not sound like much, it actually represents quite a big change on the interior. This car actually has 4 inches more rear legroom. Well, it still has more front legroom, more headroom, more hip room, more everything room than last year's model. Let's hop in and take a look.
Now under the hood, the ES350 uses the same 3.5-liter V6 as last year's model, still producing 268 horsepower. The all-new hybrid ES300H, however, uses essentially the same 200 horsepower 4-cylinder hybrid system from the recently redesigned Camry.
The interior of the ES is of course all new, and it's dominated by this large screen here in the center, a high 2-part dash. We have this lower section here. If you choose for a dark interior, everything is black, but it's still crossed by this option of either maple, or in our particular hybrid here we have bamboo trim. We get heated and cooled seats, an all-new heated steering wheel, of course your usual rear window shade, dual-zone automatic climate control, and of course our model is equipped with Lexus's premium Mark Levinson sound system. Since our model is a hybrid, instead of a regular tachometer, you get this Power Eco charge gauge. It actually can be turned into a tachometer, however, by twiddling this little knob in the dash for sport mode, and you can also choose normal or eco mode. Now, that button is over here in the dash, and that changes the way the transmission shifts, the throttle position, the steering effort, etc., as well as that little gauge in the center. The rear seats in the ES have also grown considerably, and I'm talking by epic proportions. Their rear seat legroom is up a whopping 4 inches in the 2013 model versus last year's. I mean, as you can see, I'm 6 feet tall. This front seat is adjusted for me, and I have Mercedes S-Class extended wheelbase grade room back here in this rear seat. That really is a significant improvement over last year's model. One significant change over last year's model for the rear seat passengers, however, is this center seat. Although there really is no marked hump in this car, this center seat is positioned quite a bit higher to give the two outboard rear seats more of a bucket seat feel. This does mean that my head is hitting the ceiling, even though this car has grown over last year's car in terms of headroom as well. Now, one of the complaints about hybrid luxury cars, of course, is a lack of trunk space. Because the batteries are actually positioned back here, between the trunk space and the rear seats, you do lose some cargo room. However, the loss isn't quite that bad, since it is a fairly large trunk with or without the hybrid. As you can see, this is the largest carry-on bag that you can carry on a domestic flight. And this trunk swallows it really very easily. Much like the new Camry hybrid, the trunk is fairly large. And as you can see, in our exclusive How Does a Journalist Fit in the Trunk segment, it actually is fairly comfortable, especially since we have this new power closing trunk lid. As far as our trunk comfort index, for a sedan, this is a solid 8 out of 10. Not just because there's this interesting electronic shelf over here that acts as a pillow, but because the trunk is actually fairly nicely appointed. Although the carpet is a little bit cheap, as you can see on this liner here, we do have a fairly nice trunk rug, fairly decent storage in the back. Overall, it's a very nice trunk. Now, as you would expect with something in this class, the ES300 delivers a fairly soft ride. Although Lexus claims that they've tuned this to be a little sportier than last year's model, it really is by no means a 3 Series or an Audi S4 type competitor, nothing along those lines. This is sort of the modern interpretation of what an American luxury sedan should be. It's large, it's comfortable, it rides softly, but it does actually handle surprisingly well, not just for a hybrid, not just for a Lexus, but for anything about this size, and definitely anything with front-wheel drive. This actually is an excellent handler in that category. My only complaint about the ES300H on the road is that although everything else in the car is considerably quieter than last year's model, since it still has a 4-cylinder engine in this hybrid drivetrain, it is a little bit louder than the V6 model out on the road, and that's really just the engine noise. Wind noise is greatly reduced over last year's model. Again, I'm Alex Dykes of thetruthAboutCars.com, and this has been our quick take at the 2013 Lexus ES. As always, check out thetruthAboutCars.com for news, reviews, and of course the full review on the Lexus ES coming up soon.